I think there have been a number of efforts made for communities in London to close traffic to their particular area. And it may be that some of the pressure groups that have mainly encouraged this, demanded this, are perhaps not as representative as they appear to be at first sight. I can think, for instance, about 3 years ago of the Barnbury scheme in Islington, which was very much advocated by people living within the area, but of course it had enormous disbenefits on the people living around. And there is a scheme in Kensington, which I believe your program is showing, which was brought about by the substantial influence of very influential people, and Kensington Borough Council bowed to those people.
Mr. Daly, during your time as chairman of the Transport Committee, your policies were avowedly anti-motorist. Do you think they've been a success, looking back on?
Well, I don't think they were avowedly anti-motorist. I think people are always confusing this with the fact that in an effort to improve public transport, priority for buses, we had to impose more restrictions on commuters, on all-day commuters. Now, that's a very different thing from being portrayed as someone who hates cars or motorists. This is arrant nonsense.
But for the man behind the wheel, who lives out in Bromley and works in the centre, it comes down to the same thing, doesn't it? He can't park his car, which is costing him enough in tax as it is, without the risk of a ticket. How on earth is he supposed to get to work when even the rail service is expensive?
Well, when it comes to the majority of people moving, the vast majority of people going to work in the peak hours go by public transport. And the real crisis in this city, and the real cause for worry, is that for the past 30 years, not enough resources have been put into maintaining an adequate level of public transport, and even more critical, not enough money has been put aside to make sure that in 10 years' time, things will not actually get worse.
May I ask you, sir, do you find your journey is reasonable?
Usually unpleasant.
For what reasons?
Crowded, trains late, the usual failings of British Rail.
May I ask if you consider the journey expensive or not?
Expensive for the service one gets.
Would you be prepared to pay more for a better service?
I think we pay enough already. In fact, far too much.
How about you, sir? Do you find it a reasonable service?
Not at all, no. Trains are cancelled, delays, and all in all, it's pretty terrible.
Do you find it particularly crowded? I mean, is that one of the problems or not?
Always crowded this time in the morning.
Do you find it's a reasonable service or not?
Well, I would agree with the gentleman over there. I think it's very reasonable in the morning. I always have difficulty at night. I very rarely get a seat at night.
Alex Treasure is a railway. He has very little sympathy for commuters.
There's a lot of commuters, of course, complain that just when they're being forced to use the railways more than ever because of anti-car policies, the train service is getting cut and cut and cut and more
Yeah, well, you
expensive.
see, this again, I mean, it's not anybody's fault but the commuters' fault, you know. I mean, we're talking about we're losing money. And it's sad to say, but you got so much cheaters in this country, you know, the people will come up to the barrier. I mean, down at Victoria, we lose thousands of pounds a day. You know, to stand up at the barrier is murder. You got to have, patient like Job. People come up there and they don't want to pay, well-dressed men.
So shouldn't traffic policy plan to accommodate the motorist? Jim Daly thinks not.
No, what you should be doing is having a proper and rational fares policy. And that's something that for the past 4 years we've been urging on government. And I think that the function of politicians is not to give easy answers to people when problems are difficult, but is to say what the problem is and what the answer is. And I think in urban politics in the last few years there's been too much of a tendency to say, oh, here's a problem and here's an easy answer, and not here are real difficulties and what are we going to do about them. The only way to deal with public transport fares, as you rightly say they're increasing on too high a scale, is to ensure that the tax transfers, that government subsidy, is put into the system on a scale that in the past it's been put into the roads.
But it's not only that fares are going up. I mean, services are actually being cut. Now, at that stage, people are left with the option of their car if they live on the edge of London and work in the centre. Is it fair that they should feel harassed and attacked?
I think that the natural feeling whenever people are frustrated is to demonstrate anger and then aggression and ultimately resignation, to get fed up and shrug their shoulders, blame it all on them. But this is a problem of all big cities, and it's not one that is solved by simply turning to the private means of transport and saying that's the solution, let's provide for it. Because if you can see over my shoulder here, that's providing for it. At what expense? At the expense of housing, of more pollution and noise and all the rest of it, when in fact a rational integration of public transport will give the level of mobility that's necessary, and it won't mean that people can't have a car. Of course they can have a car, but there are limitations on the extent to which they can use it.
Restrictions that worry the police. In his last report, Sir Robert Mark warned that motorists must be allowed to proceed safely and smoothly. Our experience is that these conditions are not satisfied at the moment.